Hey folks, glad you could be here today. I am Dr. Joe Esposito, and what we're going to talk about today is how to clean out your sinuses. How many people would like to have clear sinuses? Raise your hands. Most of you. Because all day, every day, in my practices, patients come in, especially in the cooler wet months, and they'll be honking and spitting and blowing their noses and complaining about their sinuses and sinus pressure and sinus allergies and is it an allergy, is it a cold, is it the flu? I'm going to tell you what to do about it today. And so finally, for the first time in your life, you can have clear sinuses. And the reason that's important is not so much that it's uncomfortable, but we need to breathe. And if we look at some of the ancient civilizations, part of what they do as part of the healthcare protocol is they do breathing exercises, yoga, meditation. Breathing is so important, and most of us don't do it right. Isn't that a silly statement? Most of us don't even breathe right. Now, a couple of things can prevent us from breathing properly, and then we're going to get into sinuses, so bear with me for a second. Number one, of course, is sinuses. Number one reason sinuses gets clogged is because of what you're eating. You're eating bad food. It produces a mucus reaction, a mucus clog up the sinuses, and you got a problem. The other thing that I find, and this is really important because it's going to loop back around to sinuses, is people have something called acid reflux. How many people have acid reflux? Raise your hands. It might be called acid reflux, GERD, heartburn, sour burps, my mother used to call it. You might have gas, bloating, chronic cough. And the reason is your stomach is supposed to sit below something called your diaphragm. And if your stomach sits below your diaphragm, you digest food. Food goes in your stomach. There's a valve called the lower esophageal sphincter. It opens up in your diaphragm, lets food drop into your stomach. The lower esophageal sphincter closes, and your stomach digests food, and it passes it on into your small intestine, and everybody's happy. Well, what happens in a lot of us, myself included, your stomach pushes up against your diaphragm. If your stomach pushes up against your diaphragm, you can't digest your food properly. So the food now sits in your stomach, and it rots. And when it rots, it gives off something called lactic acid. So lactic acid can build up in the stomach, reflux up into the esophagus, and burn your esophagus. And that's called heartburn. It's not your heart. Your stomach and your esophagus, so it's really a misnomer. But why is that bad? Well, your esophagus isn't designed to handle acid. So when food refluxes up into the esophagus, the acid can burn the esophagus and can actually lead to serious problems like scarring of the esophagus and ultimately can lead to esophageal cancer. So if you have heartburn or burping, it's not something you want to ignore because it's a sign of it's foretelling something that's going to happen in the future, and it's not going to be good. So some people have a chronic cough from this because the acid comes up into their vocal cord area and they cough all the time. Had a lady one time, not long ago actually, came from about 2-3 hours away, and she didn't speak much English, and her sons came in with her, and they translated, and they said, we've done everything. We've given her every medication. She can't take the medication anymore because if you neutralize the acid too much, you can't digest your food. You need the acid to digest your food, so you're kind of in a catch-22. So what does this all mean? She came in, we treated her. She did great, spectacular results, got off all the medication, and she's normal again. But if you're having the acid reflux, it could be going up into your sinuses and irritating your sinuses. So, your acid reflux could be causing your sinus problems. Ain't that something? So what do we do about that? Well, one thing we can do is we can take medication for it, but the medication doesn't fix the problem. It treats the symptoms. Now, let me say this about that. It's like, what was it, Richard Nixon who said that? Let me say this about that. I'm not against treating symptoms. If I have a headache, I'll take an aspirin. That's okay. But ultimately, I want to get to the cause of my problem. And if you want to get to the cause of your problem, you're listening to the right show and you're talking to the right guy. So what I do with my patients, and myself included, is when I have acid reflux, I find my sinuses start to act up. I start getting a sore throat. We take my stomach and we massage it. We pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm. It's a gentle technique. It doesn't hurt. When you pull the stomach away from the diaphragm, the stomach drops below the diaphragm. That little valve called lower esophageal sphincter closes. Food doesn't reflux up into the throat anymore, and the problem's solved. Now, sometimes it takes several visits to solve that problem, so don't think you're going to come see us and in one shot you're going to be healed. Doesn't work that way. If that's what you're expecting, don't waste your trip. Okay, if you want to get well, then I want you to come see us. The reason that's important, too, is because your stomach's job is to take proteins and break them into amino acids. And the amino acid tryptophan becomes serotonin in your brain, which is a neurotransmitter that helps you calm down and focus. Tyrosine becomes dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that gives you pleasure. Glutamine becomes GABA. GABA suppresses other neurotransmitters and it helps control pain. Now, my background is I'm board certified in chiropractic, I'm board certified in orthopedics, pain management, double board certified in nutrition, BS in nutrition, a retired dietitian, award-winning author. My new book, of course, if you haven't got my old book or my new books, my first book, I should say, it's called Eating Right for the Health of It. It tells you how to change your diet. The second book is called Prescription for Extreme Health. Really good book, by the way. It took about 3 years to write. And it really is just a guide on how to manage your own health. So it's really a great book. And they're both available on my website, drjoeesposito.com. And so I want to get to the cause of your problems and not treat the symptoms. So as a chiropractor, we do a lot of work with pain management. And so patients come in here in a lot of pain. One thing we add to our repertoire, it's a big word, isn't it, repertoire? Is we want to make sure the digestive system is working so you can produce the neurotransmitter, so you can produce the GABA, help to suppress your pain. So it's a different twist on pain management. So that's our goal, is to get in there and get to the cause of your problems, not just fix the symptoms. So with the stomach, part of the testing we do is a very simple test. It literally takes seconds. And we can massage the stomach away from the diaphragm. One of the things that happens when I have this problem is my heart races. I get really high blood pressure. My heart races. It skips a beat every now and then because the same nerve that controls my stomach controls my heart, called the vagus nerve, V-A-G-U-S. And so if my vagus nerve is being irritated, it can affect blood pressure and heart rate. And you get real anxious, too, because your heart's racing. You get all anxious. So it's really a neat thing. So people with anxiety, depression, bipolar, even suicidal patients, one of the things I work with is I always work with their digestive system. I get them on a good diet, make sure they're eating the right foods, and we check the nervous system because as a chiropractor, I want to make sure the nervous system is working at 100%. Make sense? Say yes. If you say yes, I can move on back to sinuses again. All right. I think I heard you. If I did hear you, I better get myself checked out because I'm on the radio. All right. So sinus problems. Number one reason your sinuses get congested, dairy products. So if you have sinus problems, sinus congestion, runny nose, headaches, I want you to cut out your dairy products. And you know what? If you do it for just 2 weeks, play my game. Let's assume I'm wrong. I'm not. But let's assume I'm wrong. So what? You gave up dairy products for 2 weeks. No big deal. But that's butter, cheese, yogurt, ice cream. Check the ingredients in your foods. So many things have dairy in it. Chocolate. So no dairy for 2 weeks. I also want you to give up wheat in those 2 weeks. Oh, you thought dairy was tough. Now I'd ask you the miracle to give up wheat. The reason is this. Dairy is the number one food allergen. Wheat is number two. So I want to take the number one and number two food allergens out of your diet. Take them out for 2 weeks, and then I want you to reintroduce one of them. You pick it. Let's say it's dairy. Have dairy for a couple of days, 3-4 days. See how you feel. Okay? Sinuses are okay. Leave the dairy out again and reintroduce the wheat. It's called a rotation diet. And then see if the sinuses come back. And if they come back after the dairy and or the wheat, which they probably will, sinus problems, you know that you can't eat dairy and wheat anymore. What? What do you mean I can't eat dairy and wheat? You're ridiculous. No, I'm not ridiculous. You're having an issue with dairy and wheat, as does everyone, and you need to cut it out. It's just that simple. Not hard to do. You can do it. I haven't had dairy for over 30 years now. Christmas Day was my 30-year anniversary. And I eat very little wheat. Now, I can't say I never eat wheat. I never eat dairy. But every now and then, if I eat a piece of wheat, I know it right away. Sinuses act up, runny nose, sore throat. So I know what I did wrong. So, no dairy, no wheat. This is going to help tremendously. If I'm wrong, so what? If I'm right, I just solved a lifetime problem for you, your friends, and your family. For free. No drugs, no surgery, problem solved. So why wouldn't you take that chance? Prove me right or prove me wrong. I don't care. I care that you try it to see that I'm telling you the truth. So no dairy, no wheat. That's going to help tremendously, and then just cut it out. And what's going to happen, I predict, because I'm psychic, here we go. You're going to eat dairy or wheat after you do it, and you say, Dr. Joe is right. Oh, my gosh, I'm saving so much money on medication. Medication makes me sleepy, so I couldn't work, and I couldn't be a good mother, father, sister, brother, churchgoer, hard worker that I at my place of business because the medication was having an effect on you. Got you off the medication now because I didn't ask you to stop taking the medication. I asked you to get to the cause of the problem so you don't need the medication. And now suddenly you're going to be at a party, and little devil's going to appear on your shoulder, and it's going to say, oh, Bobby or Jane or whatever your name is, I want you to eat pizza, cheesecake, ham and cheese sandwich, whatever it is. And you're going to eat it, and you're going to have the problem come back, and you're going to say again, Dr. Joe was right. Now, it may take a couple of kicks in the head for you to realize that I'm right. If it does, that's okay. Just keep going back to Dr. Joe was right and go back to it. There's a million other reasons why you shouldn't be eating dairy and wheat. Today we're talking just about sinuses, okay? So that's going to solve a lot of your problems. Now, if you do get the runny nose, you can try something called nasal irrigation. Now, this is a lot of fun. I have a weird sense of fun. Saline sprays, which you squirt a little saline solution into your nose, work okay, but too much of it can cause some real serious problem, and you have a rebound effect. So you take your saline spray. Saline is just salt water. And you spray it up your nose, and it works a little bit, but too much of it can cause some serious damage there. So what you can do is you can use a saline spray or something called a neti pot. Now, if you've never had a neti pot, it's really a weird thing. It looks like a little tea kettle, and you fill it with warm water and some special salt. Make sure you just don't use table salt. And they have saline irrigation salt you can use. They sell it at drugstores, health food stores. And you put the nostril, the nozzle up one nostril, turn your head, like the nostril with the nozzle would be up and the other one is down, and you pour the water in one nostril and it comes out the other one. Now, you've had a lot of sensations in your life. This is a sensation you've probably never had. Water flowing through your nostrils. But it does work, but you got to be careful with it. So sinus infections affect about 37 million people a year. What happens is the mucous membranes in your nose and sinuses becomes irritated, whether it's cold, allergy, pollutants, exposure to dry air, cold air. Yes, when your nose does run when it's cold, it's a normal physiological reaction. Just bring tissues with you. It just is what it is. Irritation causes the membranes to become inflamed, and this slows down the motion of something called cilia. Now, cilia are tiny little hairs that coat your mucous membranes, and they move mucus over your sinuses. So when the inflammation occurs, these little hairs can't push the sinuses or the mucus through. And at the same time, the irritation causes the mucous membranes to secrete more mucus. And the reason they do that is to dilute or encapsulate the bacteria or the virus or the allergen to prevent it from getting into the body. So your sinuses are pretty amazing. But then they can get a buildup, and you would call that a sinus infection. If you have a cold, this is how you know your cold is getting better. First days, you get maybe a scratchy throat, then you get a runny nose, and then the mucus starts getting thick. And when the mucus starts getting thick and yellowy or green, that's usually a sign that your immune system is now winning the battle. When it's just a lot of water coming out, that's usually a sign that the bacteria, viruses, germs, allergen is winning. But when you start getting that thick yellow mucus stuff, that's the white blood cells attacking the foreigners, the pathogens, and getting them out of the system. So you kind of know you're on your way out, getting better. So how do you know? Symptoms of a sinus infection: congestion around and pressure under the eyes, the cheeks, and the forehead. Why? You have holes in your skull called sinuses. And those sinuses get filled up, and it hurts. If you have a cold, you think, lasting more than 10 days. Colds are usually 3 days coming and 3 days going. That's usually a good rule. When you start having that green, thick, yellow mucus, that's a sign that the body's fighting the problem. But if it lasts more than 10 days, then it's probably infected pretty badly. Postnasal drip, it drips down the back of your throat. Toothache, fatigue. Because your immune system only has so many warriors. We call them white blood cells. And the white blood cells come out and they attack the bad guys. Well, if you're eating bad food, which is causing the body to attack that, and you're eating things like dairy and wheat, causing more reaction, and then you're having exposed to cold or flu, viruses, germs, bacteria. So your immune system can only be spread so thin until it says, I don't even know what else to do anymore, so now you start getting really tired. So one of the things you can do is sleep. Now, another trick I do if I start feeling under the weather is I create an artificial fever. Because if I have a viral infection, like the flu, my body raises my body temperature to help kill off the viruses. Makes perfect sense. So why not help the body do that by raising your body temperature? Now, you can do that several ways. Number one is you can take a hot bath. You can take a shower. I have a steam shower in my house, and the reason is I had real bad sinus problems when I was a kid. And I know that when I'm in a steam shower, it helps. Now, one of the things that happened when I was a kid was I was given a lot of antibiotics. Now, when I was a kid, antibiotics were used for everything. Didn't matter what it was, they gave you antibiotics because it was the wonder drug. Well, now we realize antibiotics kill off the bacteria in your colon, and if you kill off the bacteria, you leave something called yeast in your colon. Bacteria, good and bad, will be killed off by antibiotics, but the yeast won't. So now the yeast can start to multiply and burrow holes into the colon and get into your blood system. And when it gets into your blood system, you can have what's called a systemic yeast infection. And a systemic yeast infection can come out as things like vaginal infections, itchy armpit, itchy rectum, athlete's foot, jock itch. Little trick you can do. I have a lot of patients do this and come in. I had some girl the other day come in and she took a picture of what she did here. You take a glass of water, clear water, and you get a big mouthful of spit tomorrow morning when you wake up first thing before you do anything and spit into the glass. And after a few minutes, you could have up to an hour, you see these little strands coming down, almost like jellyfish. That's a sign of a yeast infection. Try that. It's in my book, my new book called Prescription for Extreme Health. I actually have a whole chapter on that because yeast infections are so overlooked, so undiagnosed, and when you fix them, everything changes. So, folks, like I was saying, I'm board certified in chiropractic, orthopedics, pain management, double board certified in nutrition. If you'd like to come see me and my team of doctors, we would love to have you as a patient. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. And if you're in the Atlanta area, love to come see us. You can come see us. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world, and we can set you up a time to come see us. We want to make sure if you come in, a couple of things happen. Number one, please, if you make an appointment, show up or call us saying you can't make it. We're going to reserve time for you, and it's a horrible thing to do if you take away a time from another patient. That's just downright rotten, bad karma. Number two, be ready to make some changes. If you're not ready to make some changes, maybe it's nutritional, maybe you have to work on your stomach, maybe it's chiropractic care, you might have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, car accident injuries. We want to get working with you that day. So if you're not ready to make some changes, I know you're not going to do everything. Nobody does everything the first day. Don't make an appointment. But when you're ready, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. You can do it online. You can call us. We're more than happy to work with you. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. We want to be your doctors, but we want you to listen to what we say so we can get the best results. If you want to get my books, my supplements, they're all on the website, drjoeesposito.com. And if you have questions, you can always email me through the website at, say it with me, drjoeesposito.com. Good boys and girls, you're paying attention. So we're talking today about sinus problems. And when that irritation occurs of the mucous membranes, you got problems. Now, sinus problems can be either acute or chronic. Acute means a pain or you have active symptoms. That means you're in the acute stage. Chronic stage means that the symptoms are still there. Now, there's different definitions, but in this case would be it's been there for a long time. My definition of chronic would be more than 10 days. So you can have sinus problems for months, even years. How many people have had sinus problems for years? Raise your hands. You don't know what it's like to take a deep breath through your nose. You snore. These are all signs the sinuses aren't working properly. It's more prevalent today than it was before we had antibiotics. Now, I'm okay with antibiotics, but if you take them, you got to fix the damage. Another gal came in the other day, and she can't, real bad problems, real bad yeast infection, sinus problems. And as we're talking, I said, well, this usually occurs after a round of antibiotics. And she looked at her mother, and her mother looked at her, and they both had this horrified look on their face. And they said a couple of years ago, she took antibiotics for her acne. I said, yes, might have helped the acne short term, but acne problems, skin problems, I always go back to the liver. You want to get the liver working. So the antibiotics might have treated the symptoms, but they didn't treat the cause. And that's why a lot of doctors now aren't using antibiotics for acne, because it's not a disease. It's not going to kill you. Yeah, I've got an infected wound. I want to take antibiotics if I have to make sure it doesn't go systemic. I had a real bad poison ivy reaction a couple of years ago. My whole arm was swollen. And I took a picture of it. I sent it to one of my friends who's a medical doctor, and I said, what do you think? He said, dude, you need drugs. And I said, yeah, you're right, I do. Because I tried the holistic approach. It didn't work. Gave me the antibiotics. A couple of days, it was gone. So he gave me steroids, actually, for that, not antibiotics. But worked great. Now, I just had to rebuild my colon after the damage from the steroids, and I was fine. So you need them sometimes. Yeast infections, as we talked about, occur after you kill off the bacteria with antibiotics. Because the bacteria in your colon is over 100 different types, are vital 70% of your immune system is in your digestive system. So if you start killing off bacteria in your colon, well, now the yeast aren't affected. They start to multiply, overgrow, get into your system, get chronic yeast infections, and now you got a real serious issue. But I've had patients with anxiety, depression, brain fog. I actually need to do a whole show I think I did one a while ago on yeast infections. I may have to go back and visit that because it's so misdiagnosed and so vital. So the things that I find most misdiagnosed are pinched nerves, because 90% of the nerves don't feel pain. So you can have a pinched nerve and not know it. So pinched nerves are often misdiagnosed. Yeast infections are misdiagnosed. Acid reflux is often misdiagnosed. You don't know why you have heartburn, high blood pressure, rapid heart rate. Could be the stomach pushed up against the diaphragm. And then, of course, your diet is totally ignored. Because most doctors, most ordinary doctors, are not trained in nutrition. That's okay. That's not their job. If you came to me, and I have this happen all the time, we see a lot of patients in my offices, and they'll say, Doc, I have this mole, I have this tumor. What do you think? You need to go see a surgeon. Go see a surgeon. Most of the surgeons I work, all the surgeons I work with are really good people. They'll refer right back to me to continue with the chiropractic care, continue with the nutritional work, continue with the supplementation. And they do their job and I do my job. And we don't say, oh, you shouldn't go see that surgeon, he's a jerk. Oh, chiropractors don't know what they're talking about. Oh, that medical doctor's just pushing drugs. No. How about we all just work together to get the patient well? Well, there's a novel concept in healthcare, isn't it? And so we try to get to the cause of the problem, but sometimes you do need some outside help. So how do you deal with these sinus problems? A couple of things you can do. We talked about hot showers or a hot bath to raise your body temperature. That's really good. But you have to stop causing the problem. If I have a scab and I keep picking it, it's not going to heal. If I have a sinus problem and I keep doing things like dairy products and wheat, and I have pinched nerves, which the nerves in the upper part of the neck control the sinuses, and I have acid reflux, which the acid is coming up and irritating my sinuses, and I'm not digesting my food properly, and I'm under stress, and I don't have enough vitamin D. Yeah, let me throw that in there as we go through this. You need, I'm about 200 pounds. I take 10,000 international units of vitamin D every day. And I think, 5,000, I'm sorry. You should take 5,000 international units of vitamin D as well. Make sure it's vitamin D2 and vitamin D3 and not D2. Sorry about that. Vitamin D3 is the natural version. Vitamin D2 is the synthetic version. You can get vitamin D from several places. One is fish oil. I don't like that one because it can be contaminated with mercury and other toxins. You can get it from lanolin, which is sheep wool. Why? Whoever figured out sheep wool has a lanolin, which has vitamin D in it, I have no idea. That's okay. And you can also get it from algae. The algae is a very expensive source of it. So if you're going to do the moderately priced, most effective way, I would recommend the lanolin or the sheep wool because that's the best way to get vitamin D3. Also take it with something fatty because vitamin D3 is absorbed when fat is present. So when I say fatty, avocado, olive oil, nuts, anything with some fat in it is going to be good. So we want to get the nervous system working properly. As a chiropractor, that's my job. I want to get your digestive system working properly, so sometimes it's a physical problem, not a chemical problem. And so many times you're trying to treat it chemically, and it don't work. Again, if you take acid reflux medication, sometimes it's necessary. I say that tongue-in-cheek because I have to say that. It prevents you from absorbing calcium, magnesium, B12, and iron properly. So now we have B12, which affects the nervous system. I'm a chiropractor. I want your nervous system working. Iron, of course, energy, blood flow. Magnesium relaxes your blood vessels. It relaxes your nervous system, helps your bowels move properly. Calcium is necessary for buffering the blood, making muscles work, and, of course, what you know it as is bone. So if you have a health issue, maybe it's neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, headaches, I would love to have the opportunity for you to come see us so we can take care of you. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Maybe it's a nutritional issue. Maybe it's a digestive issue. But when you come in, I'm going to check everything, and I'm going to tell you what I think you need. Sometimes patients come in and say, I just want to talk about nutrition. Well, you have physical problems. Well, I have physical problems. I don't care about nutrition. Well, you got to take the nutrition too. drjoeesposito.com or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. We'll set you up a time to come see us. We'll do an exam. We'll check you out, maybe take x-rays, start treatment. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. We want to be your doctors, but we want you to work with us and follow our advice. So if you're ready to get well, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. We'll set you up an appointment online. Call us. We file insurance for you. It's real easy to be a patient there. Hey, folks, got to go to a break. Don't go anywhere. Tell your friends about the show. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for staying with me. If you're just joining us, welcome. Glad you could be here. I am Dr. Joe Esposito, and we're talking today about that sinus problem that you have. And what do you do about it? And we said earlier that you have to stop causing it, and the number one food allergen that'll cause sinus problem is dairy, and the number two food allergen is wheat. So you got to give up your wheat and your dairy at least 10 days. If you give it up for 10 days, come back after 10 days, try one of them. Try dairy. Try it for a couple of days, see if your sinuses act up. 3-4 days. Stop the dairy, go back to the wheat. Try it for 3 or 4 days, see how you feel. Chances are you're going to see a big difference in your sinuses, your energy, your bowel function. Everything changes when you cut out the bad foods. I call the 7 deadly sins the bad foods. And the 7 deadly sins are alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. Now, I know if you've never heard me before say that, you're saying, but Dr. Joe, that's everything. Alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. And the answer is, it's everything in your world. It's not everything that's out there. There's about 120,000 other foods you can eat that are actually good for you. So staying away from those are going to be your key. If you have acid reflux, heartburn, the acid can actually irritate your sinuses and cause sinus problems as well. So fixing the heartburn many times fixes the acid reflux. And we fix it by pulling the stomach down away from the diaphragm, manually moving the stomach, which is pretty cool stuff. And then we talked about things like a neti pot. Now, if you're just tuning in and you want to get the first part of the show, or the earlier part of the show, I'm sorry, you can always go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. We archive hundreds of hours of radio shows there. And also videotapes. Whenever I do a lecture, I videotape, and I put that on my website as well, because some people are visual learners and some people are auditory. So however you learn, the website's there for you to do it. And the cost for all this, hundreds of hours of radio shows, videos, you can ask me questions through the website, read my articles, order my books, my supplements, book appointments. The cost for all of this, membership to my website, is free. There is no membership. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com. Use the website however you'd like. I think you'll be really happy. Well, I know you'll be really happy when you start actually getting yourself well, because I want to get you have a normally functioning nervous system, a normally functioning digestive system, and good nutrition. Those 3 things are the key to getting well and staying well. So a couple of treatments that you might be able to do at home. If you have sinus problems, drink hot liquids, tea, hot veggie soup. They moisturize your mucous membranes. They speed up the movement of the cilia. We talked about the cilia, the hair in your sinuses that move the mucus along, and it can kind of wash out your sinuses more quickly. Now, you've heard about chicken soup. Chicken soup does seem to work. However, I'm not convinced it's the chicken soup that's good. I think it's the soup that's good. So a vegetable soup should work just as well, and you'll get very good results. Now, if you're going to use salt in your food, and I think you should actually, you want to use air-dried sea salt. Air-dried sea salt has over 70 different nutrients in it, and that's going to help tremendously. Warm compresses on your face 2 or 3 times a day. Take a small towel, a hand towel, or a washcloth, soak it in really warm water. Place it over your face and between your eyes, and this will help increase circulation to your sinuses, which can also speed up the movement of the cilia, those little hairs in your sinuses, to kind of push everything out. We talked about irrigating your sinuses. You want to make sure you're using a preservative-free saline solution. You can buy it where you buy your neti pots. N-E-T-T-I is how I'm spelling neti pot. And it's a little pot, looks like a little teapot. You put it up one sinus, you pour the water in, it comes out the other. So if you want to make your own, just make sure you're using distilled water and air-dried, a pure sea salt. Make sure you don't just use a bunch of junk there. Aromatherapy works. Now, when I was a kid, 100 years ago, my grandmother would take some mint we used Vicks Vapor Rub at the time, and she'd put it in some warm water and boil it, and then she'd make us breathe the steam. Put a little towel over your head and breathe the steam. And that's the same principle I was talking about of raising your body temperature. So aromatherapy works, and new research, which is really old research, shows that there's other things that work real well. So instead of using a brand name, which can have chemicals in it, you might want to get some eucalyptus or menthol aromatherapy oil, or essential oils they're called. Now, with essential oils, make sure you get a high-quality brand. Most health food stores will carry it, but if it's a big bottle, really cheap, it's not something you want to do. A good essential oil is going to be a tiny little bottle, probably about the size of your thumb, and it's going to cost you $8, $10, $12, $20 sometimes for a good essential oil. But don't be freaked out by the price because you're only going to use a drop or two. It really goes a long way. My grandfather was a German immigrant, came over in 1923, if I remember correctly, getting away from Hitler, and he gave me really good advice. He didn't speak the language when he came here. He was a very skilled carpenter. He was a master carpenter. But he said, Joseph, always buy the best. It's always cheaper. And I thought about that long and hard as I grew up through my life. And boy, every time I get used when I buy something cheap, I think, boy, Upa. Upa's a German word for grandpa. My mother's parents were German. I think Upa was right. Always buy the best. It's always cheaper. And so when it comes to essential oils, this is really true because so many times we want to make our house smell nice, our car smell nice. I took a ride with Uber the other day, and the driver had these air fresheners stuck on to her vents in her car. Oh, my gosh, I couldn't breathe. It's horrible. The car smelled nice when you first got in, but those chemicals, the phthalates and chemicals, are endocrine disruptors. They can actually disrupt the normal function of your endocrine, which is your hormone system. So be really careful what you're putting in your body and in your house, in your car, carpet cleaners, clothes soap, dryer sheets. All of these are toxic chemicals. So when I do sheets, when I buy a clothes soap, it's always the natural brand. It's, I don't know, $10 for a big bottle. Get it on sale, use a coupon. It's well worth it because I don't want these toxic chemicals coming in contact with my clothes, especially my undergarments, because they're really close to my body. And places that you have a lot of vascularity, good circulation, are also places where toxic chemicals can be absorbed more easily. So where would that be? Well, around your groin area, your underarms, a lot of circulation because those areas are very sensitive. So when you have a lot of circulation, you have a lot of vascularity and nervous innervation. And so you got to be careful not to put anything toxic in that area. And that's the irony that I find, as I go off on a tangent, is deodorants. You're putting deodorants on a very thin, highly vascularized area of your body, your armpits. If you're going to use something to cover up your stink, and I think you should, by the way, don't use antiperspirant. Antiperspirant has chemicals and things like aluminum chlorhydrate, and aluminum, studies have shown, can be absorbed into your body, and aluminum is a heavy metal and can be a highly toxic chemical. So if you're going to use something under your arms, I recommend you use deodorant, not antiperspirant. Now, that being said, I make my own deodorant. Boy, is that ever hippie, huh? You can go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, and I have a recipe there on how to make your own deodorant. It works really well. It's really cheap, and it doesn't stain your clothes. And it's equal parts of coconut oil. Trying to think of the whole recipe now. It's on the website. And shea butter. That's it. Coconut oil, shea butter, and baking soda. I just put it in a double boiler, melt it down. You could add a couple drops of tea tree oil if you want. Be careful with the tea tree oil. Remember essential oils? Because a drop goes a long way, and too much tea tree oil works great. It's an antiseptic, but it can irritate the skin. I keep it in a little container. I put it on. I just put it on my hands, rub it under my arms every day, wash my hands off because it's an oil. It's wonderful. Works great, really cheap, and extremely effective without all the toxic chemicals. So once again, another place, if you're going to use an essential oil, make sure it's a really high-quality one. You got to eat the right foods, folks. Now, years ago, it was funny. I used to make this thing in my house. It was called Dr. Joe's Cold and Flu Tonic. It's still called that, by the way. And it was equal parts of ginger, horseradish, cayenne pepper, onion, and garlic. And I would puree that in apple cider vinegar. And I made this slurry, basically. It was like tomato puree, for lack of a better word. And I would just leave it in a bottle for, God, it lasted for years, actually. And whenever I started feeling a cold or flu coming on, I would take about 2 tablespoons of this slurry. And it worked great. I mean, amazing how well it worked. And I used to give it to my patients, but then I realized I can't do that. I don't have a food license. So what I did was I started bottling it. So I have it on my website, drjoeesposito.com, and it's a purified. It's just liquid now. We filtered out and everything, and it works really well because it's antibiotic, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, opens up your sinuses, increases circulation. It tastes the way it sounds: ginger, horseradish, cayenne pepper, onion, and garlic. But I tell you what, When sinuses are acting up, you take a few dropperfuls of this stuff every hour. Works great. Now, one of the ingredients in there, which is kind of cool, is horseradish. And the reason I put horseradish in there is because it opens up your sinuses. Anybody ever have wasabi with their sushi? And you had too much of it? Because we've all done that. And boom, the sinuses just open up. And you go, oh my gosh, what did I just do? My sinuses. That's because it opens up. That's what horseradish does. So if you have to unclog your sinuses fast, take some horseradish or some wasabi, and you'll eat it, and you'll jump up and down and kick and scream for a second or two. But I tell you what, that's a really quick way to open up your sinuses. But the cold and flu tonic, Dr. Joe's cold and flu tonic, is on my website, and that stuff works great. A lot of people travel with it. Flight attendants, we treat a lot of flight attendants because we have offices near the Atlanta airport. And so flight attendants, anyone who works at the airport, actually, but if they travel a lot, captains, pilots, they'll take it with them, and they say it works great. I also have something called Dr. Joe's Immune Booster. Now, Immune Booster are herbs, Echinacea, Pau d'Arco, olive leaf extract, and they stimulate white blood cell production. Remember we said you only have so many warriors or white blood cells in your body, and if they're attacking on multiple fronts, they can't really do an efficient job. So Dr. Joe's Immune Booster, I take that just about every day in the winter just to keep my immune system strong. So part of your arsenal for sinus problems, Dr. Joe's Immune Booster to keep the sinuses strong. If you do start getting a runny nose, sinus problems, scratchy throat, then you add Dr. Joe's cold and flu tonic. Stuff works great. But again, you have to make sure you're not eating bad foods. Now, you also have to hydrate yourself, because one of the issues I find when people get sick is they usually get sick. When does it start? Right around October 31st, right? On Halloween, you bought candy for the kids. You're not going to eat it, but there's leftovers. So what do? Well, you're going to eat it. So you ate the candy, you felt awful, you felt a little better. Thanksgiving came around, you ate too much food, too much bad food, you felt awful, felt a little better. Christmas party season came in, you got sick throughout the winter. Christmas came along, you ate way too much, you felt like junk. Sick through the whole week of Christmas. Think back about it. The week between Christmas and New Year's, most people had something going on. Sinus problems, cold, flu. A lot of people missed work, of course. And then New Year's came around, you drank too much, felt like crud, and then the week later, you felt a little better. And then finally comes winter, and now you're not getting outside, you're not getting enough sunlight, you're not getting enough vitamin D, you're eating the bad foods, winter foods, comfort foods, and so you're sick all through the winter. You're wasting a whole season, 1/4 of your life, being sick all the time, but unfortunately, you caused most of it. Now, as a chiropractor, there's a lot of studies done, which are kind of cool, that shows when you adjust the spine, if you have a pinched nerve, it can stimulate white blood cell production and activity. So that's kind of neat. So as a chiropractor, when we adjust our patients, they usually see some real good results as well. But we try to put together a whole protocol. Get the spine working, get them adjusted, make sure the digestive system is working so they're breaking down their food properly, not causing allergic reactions and sinus problems there. Get them on a good diet. I always add supplements to my patients' diets, at least Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. Absolute minimum, I want you taking Super Greens and Essential Source. Now, if you don't know what they are, they're 2 supplements. I invented them for myself, actually. They're on my website, drjoeesposito.com. And that's where I start people when they say, what supplement should I start with? Let's start with Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. Then we do a diet analysis with the patient, get them off the bad food, on the good food. And then we figure out if they have any specific needs. Like, for example, as I got older, I realized my adrenal glands weren't working as well as they should, so I take an adrenal supplement. So I take something called Withenia and Eleuthero. Now, these are 2 adrenal supplements that I take to keep my adrenals working. You might not need them. I don't know. I'd have to do an evaluation with you and find out. So I take that every day, Super Greens and Essential Source. They're 2 powders. I mix it with coconut milk or almond milk. Had somebody come in the other day and said, Dr. Joe, this stuff tastes awful. I said, what do you mix it with? They said, water. I said, why don't you try it with coconut milk? They came in the next day. They said, oh, my gosh, it's delicious. I love it now. I want to have it every day. Good. And it also helps curb my appetite, by the way. That's a little bonus for you. If you have trouble eating, you're eating too much food, you can add about a tablespoon or 2 of coconut oil, extra virgin organic coconut oil, along with the Super Greens and the Essential Source. You can either put it in a blender and mix it up because coconut oil gets hard when it gets cold, or you can just put it in a blender, mix it up, or just take it on a spoon and eat it. And when you eat about a tablespoon or 2 of oil, especially in the morning, you're going to be amazed how much less food you eat. Because the fat, it's good fat, your brain needs all that good fat, but the good fats will help you curb your appetite as well. So that's why it's kind of cool. So you might want to consider that as well. Just a little bonus, but at least the Super Greens Essential. Safe for kids. If kids don't like it, you can throw a frozen banana in there, make a smoothie out of it. If you make it thick, you make ice cream out of it. Make it thin, it's a smoothie. Works great. So that's all on the website, drjoeesposito.com. But everybody should be trying that. Do it for a month and see how you feel. I think you'll be really happy with that. If you're having sinus problems, you can always elevate your head a little bit when you're sleeping. The problem with that is it'll drain your sinuses, but as a chiropractor, it's going to hurt your neck. And then you can pinch the nerves that go into your sinuses, and you kind of got a mess going on. So you see how I feel that chiropractic is the missing link when it comes to your health care. Because you got to get the pinched nerves can affect every cell in the body. Neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, headaches, numbness, muscle weakness. Get the nervous system checked always. No matter what your condition is, make sure you don't have pinched nerves. If you'd like to come see us, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and in Stockbridge. If you're in the Atlanta area, if you're not in the Atlanta area, we can always do phone consultations with you. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, and we'll set you up a time to come see us. If you make an appointment, be ready to make some changes. If you're not ready to get well, if you're not sick and tired of being sick and tired, don't make an appointment yet. When you are, you'll be ready. Everybody is. Then we'll say, okay, come on in. We're going to sit down with you. I'll do a consultation. I'll see if we can accept you as a patient, if you have a condition that I think would benefit from our treatment. If you don't, I'll tell you that too. We accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. Folks, with so many people having high deductibles, many times I can't charge you enough because chiropractic care is so crazy and expensive. I can't charge you enough to even meet your deductible, which is great. What a great, I'll put it toward your deductible. But if you're really serious about wanting to get well, drjoeesposito.com. If you've ever been in a car accident, I say this every time I say it on a show, patients come in my office the next week. If the car was damaged, you were damaged 100% of the time. And everyone in your car was damaged, including your children. So if you're ever in a car accident, you need to come see us, whether it was yesterday or 50 years ago. Because until those bones are put back in place, until we get the diet straightened out, and until we get the digestive system working, you're not going to obtain and maintain 100% of your ability to get well and stay well. We would love to be your doctors. drjoeesposito.com, and you can set up an appointment there. If you want to order Dr. Joe's Super Greens, an essential source, the cold and flu tonic, the immune booster, my books, Eating Right for the Health of It, a prescription for extreme health, those are all on the website as well, drjoeesposito.com. There's even little packages you can get, save a couple of bucks. And if you're local, you can always come pick it up at our office and save the shipping, because some people say, well, you have to pay for shipping. I got to pay the post office. So how do you prevent your sinus problems before they start? Let's talk about that. You got to get the diet straightened out. You got to get the toxic chemicals out of your diet. You have to start relaxing a little bit. The body runs well when it's rested. You want to create an environment that's not beneficial to bacteria and fungal infections growing in your sinuses and prevent them before they even start. So many people I know, they live in houses that have mold. You can get a mold kit. You can go to any of the big box stores. They have mold kits, and you could do a mold test on your house. It's a cursory test, but at least find out if you have mold. If you do, you got to fix it, remediate it, it's called, or get the heck out of that house. And if you get the heck out of the house, check all your clothes, your furniture, your bed, because the mold can get in there, and every time you sleep, you're sleeping on the mold. If you have a pillow, which I assume you do, I recommend you wash it in extremely hot water, sanitize it, probably once a month. Because you're breathing, you're sweating, you're dripping, you're drooling. That all gets into the pillow. The bacteria, viruses, germs, dust mites, they start to live in your pillow. And where do you put your head every night? Right next to that. You lay your head down. You're inhaling all that junk. So wash your pillow. I do. I throw it in my wash machine, put it on sanitize, come back a couple hours later, and you're done. It's a pretty simple thing to do. And that's going to help tremendously. You want to avoid the 7 deadly sins: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener. Stay away from the grains because those are sugar, and sugar weakens the immune system. In my book, Prescription for Extreme Health, I talk about it. If you have a white blood cell, it can usually knock out around 14, 17 different pathogens before it dies. If you drink a bottle of soda or a can of soda, that amount of sugar, that white blood cell can only kill one pathogen before it dies. How crazy is that? So essentially, you made your immune system 14 times less effective by having something as little as one can of soda. And so that's why people with bad diets are sick a lot, long-term and short-term. You got to make sure you're getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. Now, in my essential source, my super greens, we do put omega-3 fatty acids in the form of chlorella and spirulina, which are the purest forms of omega-3 fatty acids. I also take an additional omega-3 fatty acid. Now, you can get it from fish, which I don't recommend because fish usually, most commercial products have mercury in it, which is not good. If you use krill is another source of omega-3s. Now, here's something if you don't know. Fish don't produce omega-3 fatty acids. Fish get it from eating smaller fish who eat krill, who eat algae or plankton. So I'd rather eat the algae and cut out everything else in the middle. Now fish oil is the cheapest. Krill oil is a little more expensive. But krill is in what's called a phospholipid form, which is easier to absorb. So it's a better source of omega-3, and it's easier to absorb. So I would do a krill oil. If I were you, if you were me, I would do the algae oil. The reason I don't tell everyone to take the algae oil is it's expensive. But if it's not a burden to you financially, I would do the algae oil. It's the purest form, and that's the kind that I do. Coconut oil, we talked about that, how great it is. Coconut oil is high in something called lauric acid. Lauric acid is antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal. Be careful which ones you use. Make sure you get the organic coconut oil. And I take about a tablespoon a day because it actually acts. It's antibiotic, antifungal, antiviral, so it helps my immune system. It gives me the essential fatty acids that I need. It gives me lauric acid. And it also is high in something called ketones. Now, your body burns glucose as a fuel for the cells. If you cut out your sugars, which you should, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, that's why among the 7 deadly sins, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener, under sugar falls breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, and pastas, which is where you get your wheat in the 7 deadly sins. When you cut those things out and you start putting the coconut oil in, like I said, take it with Super Greens and Essential Source. It helps you. Maintain your hunger control. If you take it with your vitamin D, it's a fat. It helps you absorb your fat, and it's loaded with nutrients that you're not going to get anywhere else. Well, you could get some other places, but coconut oil really is the magic. And the coconut oil has ketones in it, and ketones now start to be used as fuel instead of glucose, if you're giving your body less glucose and more ketones, and your body becomes a fat-burning machine. So by taking Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, and a tablespoon or 2 of coconut oil, you're actually giving your body the minimum amount of nutrients that you need, and you're teaching your body to become a fat-burning machine. And it's curbing your carbohydrate cravings. Pretty cool stuff. And then you could have other supplements as well. And we put people on a weight loss program because the problem with weight loss is you're hungry all the time. I used to be very fat. So I totally get it. When I was fat, I always wanted to eat. And I still, once I have a little bit of carbohydrate, I want more. So this will help curb those appetites and those cravings that you have. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're getting exercise. If you're not exercising enough, get yourself a pedometer. Put it on your belt. It's a little thing. Looks like the size of a pager, if you remember what a pager was. And measure your steps. You want to do about 10,000 steps a day. Take your hot showers. Drink enough water. Get your chiropractic care because the nervous system controls everything. And so many people think of chiropractic care for neck pain and back pain, but 90% of the nerves don't feel pain. They control the organs. And that's why so many patients in our offices come in with one problem and end up solving so many other problems. The immune system, the digestive system, the acid reflux, the shoulder pain, the heartburn, the headaches. Sexual function is the nerves in the low back control the sex organs. So, folks, if you want to come see us, and I really think you should, because you're listening to the shows, obviously this is something you're interested in, getting well and staying well, we would like to be your doctors. We have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. Go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. We'll set you up a time to come see us. We'll do an examination if we do start treatment, and I want you to be ready to start treatment. Exam, x-rays, consultation, treatment. The second visit, we go over your x-rays. That's probably your most important visit ever. Now, we don't x-ray everybody, but most patients we do because I want to know what's going on. And that visit is when I show you the x-rays, or my team of doctors do, and you can see where your problem is. X-rays don't lie. And so it's really hard for patients to argue with logic. So we accept most major medical insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. If you've ever been in a car accident and the car was damaged, you need to come see us, whether it was yesterday, a week ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. If the car was damaged, you were damaged. I can't imagine anything more important when it comes to maintaining good health than having a normally functioning nervous system, normally functioning digestive system, and good nutrition. If you're ready to start with Dr. Joe Super Greens and Essential Source. Get my books, Eating Right for the Health of It, Prescription for Extreme Health. We can do phone consultations if you're not in the Atlanta area, but we want to be your doctors. So, folks, go to the website, make an appointment, call us or online, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. Hey, thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show. We'll catch you next time.